Okay, we got the shells, we got the jersey, so that way you know it's a positive review. We got the CDs in the back. We are ready to go. Hello one, hello all, it is the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh. And it's time for a review of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, PetroDragonic Apocalypse. King Gizzard is an Australian band, mostly doing psychedelic rock, vintage rock, but occasionally, or I should say this is the second time, they have dipped their toes into the thrash metal or the metal field, because on here they are dabbling with stoner rock, they are dabbling with progressive metal, they are dabbling with doom metal here, and speed metal as well. Like, they are really going into it once again. And of course, it wouldn't be a King Giz and the Liz Wiz album without a concept. And this time they are going back to what they did on Infest the Rat's Nest, but it's a different approach to sci-fi environmentalism, because this time around the Earth is in peril due to the toxic fumes that are in the air. There's basically poisonous gases that are going on, and we'll get into more. But let me just get into the appeal here with King Giz. With King Giz, they've always have been adventurous. Sometimes it panned out well, sometimes it had not, but my favorites would include Nonagon Infinity, Microtonal Banana, and of course, Infest the Rat's Nest. Because on here they are providing kick-ass playing, but also their vintage twist as well when it comes to the mixing, making sure that it has that trademark King Giz and the Liz Wiz sound. And as I mentioned before, adding elements of stoner rock to the mix. Now, when it comes to the stories, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to give you mainly the highlights, but not too much of the teasers. I don't really want to spoil it for you, but I do want to tell you what you are getting yourself into as you listen to it. Because as I mentioned before, the toxic chemicals are getting into the atmosphere. They are just blackening the clouds. People are dying from it. And they've gotten to a point where the atmosphere has gotten so bad, they've gotten to a point where they are basically having these illusions, these hallucinations. So they have come to a place where they are deifying this motor spirit like God to come and save them. And on here they are saying the strong will survive, the weak will perish, while the rich are just capitalizing off of this. Next is Supercell about this absolute weapon of devastation, just wiping everything out, and a very hellish twist on the Wizard of Oz. Poor Dorothy. But what it seems here to me is that the Wizard of Oz references given here may be tied into this place of hallucination, place of saying this must be a dream due to these tornado effects that are going on, these natural disasters that are going on that are pretty unnatural to a point where you just wish you were like in a dream and like you're in like this Dorothy type state where you just want to click your heels together and say there's no place like home. Pretty much drawing in that sense of delusion from wanting to be away from this chaotic nightmare that you are living in. The track Converge, where all hell has broken loose, literally, I mean, this is talking about the apocalypse here, where the earth is just shaking, the storms are just disastrous than ever, just annihilating everything in its path once again, to a point where they are calling upon the witches. So the witches come along and they have to summon the dragon. However, there is a very unfortunate twist here, because the witches who bring the dragon upon end up being devoured by the dragon that they've summoned. Yeah, it gets crazy. It gets crazy. There's a lot of twists and turns here, so I'm hoping I didn't ruin anything for you, but the way I look at it, and here's the great thing about this album, is you could pull a lot from it. You could say, is this illusion? Is this really magic? Or is that metaphorical? You don't really know. It's pretty much up to the listener to determine what's going on here and put together based on the information that has been given to you, like the story that's laid out in front of you. So not only are they coming through with these kick-ass riffs, innovative sounds, which we will get into, because one thing I do love about this album is how the instrumentation plays a part into the story. So when you pay attention to the story, the effects and styles in which the instruments are played and it's mixed coalesces very well with the narration within the story. But my thing is with the Gila Monster, it's like, I was hoping that, you know, it was maybe made from the natural disasters and chemicals that were put into the air and then summoned up, but I don't know, maybe that's just a little gripe that I have. I mean, it does play into the story, but it gets a little far-fetched there, but then again, it's up for interpretation. And also with Witchcraft, this is around the time where the riffs do get a little generic, I must say. Not as innovative or as hard-hitting as what else is on the album, but that's about it. And the Gila Monster, I would have wanted a stronger introduction to the Gila Monster, but here we are. However, the song Dragon is much more fulfilling in my opinion, where they are going for the solution for this anarchy, which is the dragon, but lo and behold, we will get into what the twist is and what transpires with the bringing and the summoning of the dragon. But first, let's get into the sonics, because I know you want the sonics. Now, the vocals here are very gruff, very theatrical, very campy, but it's well aware of the campiness. That is pretty much the point. To me, I feel like this is like what David Draymond would sound like if he actually put more self-awareness into his vocal performance. Sorry, I am not a Disturbed fan in the least bit. Used to be though. And the opener has like these rapid, fiery riffs with a lot of crunch, a lot of heaviness to it, really representing the hell on earth and the devastation that is upon them. And later on in the track, we get these tribal hand percussions and bass that kind of reminds me of Tool just a little bit, as I alluded to with the progressive metal. And who better to pull from in an articulate way that King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard can than Tool. And then it goes into these roaring stoner metal guitar solos, and it just blazes through the track as these fiery guitars just coalesce with this wall of distortion. The song Supercell has these dizzying riffs, chanted vocals, probably the most anthemic and catchy hook on the whole album. Supercell, Supercell. Like, it kind of reminds me of old school Motorhead just a little bit. The speedy, crunchy riffs, the heavy, dizzying guitar leads that are going into this, that are packed into this with so much fire. It definitely does a great job at adding to the narration of the chaos and the storm that is going on here. The song Converge has these rapid riffs that violently have this shaking quality to them that causes almost like an earthquake effect, which again fits the tone and the narration of the album. With these throat-sung vocals just droning in the back. And I love the melodic guitar passage followed along with that, with this rumbling bass, and how the two just coalesce into a harmonization. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. We get another kick-ass chorus on here, Flamethrower. Flamethrower, flamethrower. With these very thematic and kick-ass riffs and drums all throughout. And then going into, on the back end, these hypnotic passages that are like very hallucinogenic and pretty much gives you the indication this may have been a hallucination. Like, there was no dragon, there was no witches. They were just so distraught because of the toxic fumes that are in the air. So this whole thing was just a figment of their fragmented, unfortunately poisoned imagination, and due to this environmental travesty. But back to the story though, like, the Gila monster has been summoned and pretty much doing more damage than what was intended, because there wasn't supposed to be damage at all. However, the dragon does happen to scoop up the oil, swallow up the oil, and then spit it out as a flamethrower. And there's a portal in the sky. There's literal hell on earth. And due to the way it ends, as I alluded to with my thoughts on the final track here, going into the story, that's pretty much it. It kind of leaves a lot up for interpretation. So, was it a dream? In terms of, I mean, the chaos happening, I don't think that was a dream, unless you think this whole thing was a dream due to the ending, due to the ambient hallucinogenic outro. I don't know. That's for you to decide. For me, I think that the world has just endured like so much catastrophe, so much poison within the air, that it's just caused them to have like this fever dream state of mind, and just looking for solution, looking for hope, that they were able to conjure up this imagination of witches and dragons and possibly the wrongdoings of the rich that were capitalizing off it, going for these solutions, but barely making a way to solve the problem, because you know the rich, they will come up with some type of solution that will work for the time being, or just give you something to work with to hold you over, but not really solving the main issue. So that's what I wanted to say. Unfortunately, my phone ran out of time, so I had to erase some stuff, and I could have sworn that I finished my sentence, but I guess I didn't, so let's throw this in there. And honestly, if King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard decided to put out a movie, and they had it just as vintage and innovative as your music, I would definitely watch it. I would be first in line. Well, I would try to be. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling on it. I love this album. I definitely think it's one of their best, in my opinion. Very thematic, very, again, forward-thinking, putting together the elements of metal, but also keeping that same King Giz and the Liz Wiz flavor. Are some riffs on here a little generic? Sure. Are they reinventing the wheel? Not really, but they know how to keep it interesting. They know how to add their own twist to it. So they're wearing their influences on their sleeve, but still keeping it interesting and engaging throughout, with a great story, and this time a very solid ending. I'm feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this. If you've given this a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, PetroDragonic Apocalypse. Till we meet again.